are some seats here. So like, unless you really want to stay close to the food and the wine, and I love wine, you can hear that in my accent, please come, take like 30 seconds and come and sit here and like stand behind. You're not gonna see stuff, you're not gonna see shit if you're back there, all the way back there, to be honest. Like, this is like as big as it gets, and there's gonna be a lot of slides, so don't hesitate. Move in, right? Take your cup of wine with you. That will be acceptable. Cool. So, thanks for joining us here. So I'm Guillaume Cabane. You can call me G. I'm the VP of Growth at Segment. Super short. I'm the official mad scientist at Segment. And what that means is that my role is to come up with ideas that others don't. That's about it. So the main thing I want to talk about tonight is our core problem that we have in B2B. And in B2B, our problem is we need more leads, right? Actually, we need more money, but like that translates into we need more leads. So salespeople say, hey, we need more leads. And as a marketer, which is my trade, I look at my funnel and I say, hey, you know, like I've always heard like build it and they will come. And the truth is, well, give or take, your conversion rate is going to be like 5%. When I think of conversion rate, I think of like how many leads you're creating, right? It's like the sign-up rate or like the form fill rate, right? You can be in 3%, you can be in the 10%, but no one has ever come to me and say, hey, gee, I've got like a 50% sign-up rate on my website, right? Or like, oh, you're doing like some kind of drugs, and that's awesome. But the point is, it means like 19 out of 20 visitors to your website that you paid for, right? Probably some good money, are just leaving, right? And so what should you do? Should you just like pour more on top of that leaky bucket, right? Are you just gonna like spend more and more of your good VC money? I guess it depends on your VCs. Mine would say no, that's crazy, right? And so like, what do you do with all of those visitors? The other question that begs is, why are they leaving, right? Did they just come to your website and just to like spend some good time? Like they would go on Reddit, say, hey, I've got an hour to spend, let's go on Segment's website and see what there is, right? On Drift's website, right? No one does that, right? On the B2B website. If they come, it means that there's a reason for them, right? They clicked on an ad or they clicked on a good piece of content. It means that they are attracted to something, to part of the message, or they have a pain that they want solving, right? And they leave, it means that, well, you haven't solved that pain. My way to think of it is, I like to think of it as the cognitive load, right? So what I mean by cognitive load is when they come to the website and they read your message, they need to interpret the message, right? So they come with a preconceived idea. They think, hey, here's my exact pain, here's what I want to solve. They read your message and say, I don't get it. I'm out of here, right? And that's the cognitive load. It's the effort you're asking your visitors to do. And the problem is that unless there's a perfect match, which happens 1 out of 20 times, they will leave, right? And so to fix that problem, to increase your conversion rate, what you need to do is to lower the cognitive load. And the only way to do that is to make the message more in tune, more relevant, more personal to the user. And when I think of personal, it means a lot. It doesn't mean just a better message for everyone. If you look at this chart, this is the actual distribution of shoe sizes for male in the US, right? And you can see that the chart peaks at a size 11 with about 20%. So we have about 20% of the male population in the US which has a shoe size of 11. Now, if I say I just want a better generic message, well, I'm going to put on my shoe business website, we have the best 11 shoe size for everyone, right? And that, of course, is like, it's stupid. It's never going to work, right? And no one does that. But what's surprising is that what we immediately understand in that thought exercise, we don't do in our websites. We always, as marketers, especially in B2B, say, hey, we got to find a better message through A/B testing, a message that speaks to everyone. Well, the problem is that everyone is different. Well, we all have different attributes, and I don't have the same shoe size as you folks, right? Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time walking out of this room. And if you think of it, this is our message on Segment's website, right? It's stream data to every product integration your team needs. Well, that's good if you're a product person, right? And you can see here the distribution. Of course, the data is false. But you can see an idea of the distribution of the different roles within our traffic. You see product people, engineers, and marketers. Now, the problem is that if my visitor now is a marketer, I would need to say stream data to every marketing integration your team needs. But I can't do that, right? So I'm kind of stuck between settling for a generic message that speaks to no one, but like is a good average, or specific message that speaks to my biggest audience but ignores all the others, right? So that's the one of the problems I want to solve with you tonight, and I want to explain how we solved it at Segment. And I'm going to talk how our journey of personalizing the entire funnel from collecting the data to sending email and to sending live chat, all right? And you're going to see why that is important from a performance standpoint. But the framework that I want you to remember is really collect, analyze, and act. You first need to collect the data. There's no way you're going to personalize the experience if you don't know who you're talking to. So that's the first thing, right? You need to know more about each individual. And to do that, we need more data. So like the simple equation is like more data equals more leads. And remember, we want more leads because we want more money, all right? So that's pretty simple. So let's see how we can do that. And let's start with email-based enrichment. And that means enriching on the email address to improve the user experience. So that's something that we released about a year and a half ago at Segment. And we are doing it live on our website. So if we look at it, this is our sign-up form. And if this works, we have a small GIF. Fantastic. So this is me signing up with my former company's email at Mention. Small company based out of Paris, doing brand awareness. As you can see, first trig here, this form is pre-filled. So the fields, the company name, the company size, my role, my first and my last name was pre-filled, right? The way that this works, I'm not going to go into much details, but that we split the form in 3 steps. We collected the email address on the home page, and while the second step was loading, we were querying an API called Clearbit to get all of the data on the user and on the company, and we send that back to the browser to pre-fill the form. And not only that, there's 2 other tricks happening here. One, we get actually way more data than what we display on the form. We get about 120 different traits. And we use that to personalize the success, the social proof here that's at the bottom, which in this case is from another marketer, because I'm a marketer, so it's relevant, right? So what we did here is, so we split the form. If you've read Cialdini's book which is called Influence, which is a fantastic book. By the way, as you can hear my accent, I'm French. And the translation of the book in French is slightly different. It's 2 words. It's influence and manipulation, which I feel is a way more honest translation of what the book actually is. It's still a great book. And so we pre-fill. By pre-filling, it means that we reduce the friction by the effort that the user needs to do, right? And we have social proof. The end result here is plus 3% conversion rate. Just to explain what that means, commitment, it means that when you're a user and you look at an effort that you need to do, you're going to evaluate the equation. Should I do this effort or not? And what am I going to get in return? Right? So if the effort, or what you think the effort is too big up front, you're going to leave. If the effort is pretty low, well, you can say, well, that's low commitment. Just need to put my email address. I'm going to go for it. And when you finish a task, that's the principle of commitment. You have I'd say, a benefit. You get the value. You feel good about finishing things. As humans, we like finishing things, right? So I'm making it low cost up front, and I'm trying to minimize the cost during the process. So the benefit of that, and if you look at this chart, this is a small extract of all the emails that we have at Segment. Getting all of that data enables us to have extremely personalized paths because we know a lot about the visitors, about the users, the people who sign up. And we can say, well, those people are going to get an email for their subset, for their persona. And those people are going to get an email for another subset. And we have about 120 there. And I'm going to focus just on the top, just on the welcome email. You're going to see how we can use very granular data to change the welcome email a lot. So here is the welcome email for people who are marketers. And for those who can't see back there, the email says, I'm Guillaume, VP at Growth at Segment, so it's sent by me. It caught my eye that you're in a marketing role. As a former Segment customer in charge of marketing, I've been exactly in your shoes. 9 chances out of 10, you won't be doing the Segment implementation yourself. And it goes on saying, here's what you should do. All right? Seems pretty relevant for a marketing person. Now, if we look at the other one here, this is the email for developers. Right? The developer email is sent by Jake, head of customer success, and it gives access to all of the documentation. Right? Now, when you see that, you say, well, OK, that's obvious. Of course it is. But there's 2 things. One, most companies don't do that. Second, if you cross the emails together and you send actually the technical docs to the marketer, you fail completely. Right? Which means that, well, you're increasing relevance here. But that's not the only thing that you can do when you have all of those traits. The other thing you can do is you can start building some machine learning-based scoring models. In our case, we use a vendor called MadKudu, the small logo on the side there. And they get all of the data through our enrichment partner, Cabane, so the 120 traits. And they create a model based on past conversions. And the model looks something like that. It's a regression tree model. And you can see it starts at the employee count. It goes into how much they raised, or how much their funding is, the industry they're in, the technologies that they have running on their website. And it gives us a score, which means, well, is this a good lead or a bad lead? And if you're in marketing or in sales roles, you've probably heard of lead scoring tools and models, and you've probably had a bad experience. I hear you have been there, and actually baked off 5 different vendors. The reason why I kept that one is the performance. And the performances here, those are actual ratios. We are able to predict 80% of our revenue within 16% of our leads. See that what it means that the small portion here of leads translate into that much of revenue. In other words, it means I'm able to send 1/7 of the leads to my salespeople while maintaining 80% of the revenue. That's a significant reduction in noise, very significant. And that's very important because in all of the companies I've been at in the past, and I've been at a lot, we have a huge problem, which is we have tourists coming to our website, right? So we have people who land there because they have a problem, and we don't answer that problem. We talked about that. The other thing is we have people who are never going to pay. They have the problem, right? But they're not going to pay for Segment, right? They are like freelance developers. They are like in like another country where we have like no sales reps. They're never going to pay. And so the cost of handling them through my sales process is not acceptable, right? So I need to exclude them from that. So getting a lead score enables me to actually offer a different onboarding email to the people who are high score. And in this case, the welcome email is ever slightly different. The email comes from one of the co-founders, and it states that, and it puts in copy not only the user, but also one of our sales reps, right? Because it syncs with Salesforce, so it pulls who's the lead owner from Salesforce, and it names that sales rep in the body here, and saying, I'm going to intro you to Payman, and giving the email address, and here's what you should do, right? So, well, that could be automated. It makes sense. But what happens when one of the co-founders, if it's a real email, what happens if one of the co-founders put in copy one of the sales reps? Well, the sales rep's going to stop whatever they're doing right now, and they're going to answer and like immediately. And like, why do I need to have that done manually? I don't need to. So we completely automated that, and we actually have a copy here, an email copy, which actually replies to the original email, adding it as a fake reply here correctly, and says, hey, yeah, I'm glad you found us, and I'm replying, I'm doing my job as a sales rep, right? And replies within 5 minutes. And so now we have a conversation going between 2 people at Segment and a customer. From the customer's perspective, it looks like a convo. It looks like, well, there's an important person who like said, hey, you got to talk to this guy. And like the sales rep says, oh yeah, now I'm talking. At least it looks completely natural and human, right? And that's what I want them to believe, right? And this performs extremely well. So that's the value. Of course, I don't want to do that with anyone. I can only do that with the people who are highly valuable because I have a very high rate of answers. The last thing that we do is check this out. This is the sign up. On the left, you still have my old email address. On the right, you have Farid from Instacart, large company, very valuable for us, right? Well, larger than mentioned at least. What happens here is that, well, we still have the social proof here on the left, but on the right, I changed the sign-up form. And the sign-up form now states, would you like help getting started? Yes or no. Now, what happens here is that we are able to be fast enough in the enrichment and in the lead scoring, less than 1 second, to change the experience, the sign-up experience, right? And to offer a one-on-one onboarding. The question is, why do we do that? Well, think about it. If the person who signs up is Nike, right? What's the chance that they actually sign up to Segment and install Segment with the technical docs in a few days? Zilch. It's never going to happen, right? They're going to fail, and we know that. We look at the data. What we need to do is get them to talk to a sales rep or to a technical engineer as soon as possible, right? And so I want to avoid them having a bad experience where they're going to fail. I want to avoid failure mode in the app, right? And when they press yes, we say there's a modal screen that says, thank you, we're going to reach out to you, right? And that's it. You don't get in the app, right? This is like a year old. Now we're a bit more aggressive. Now, actually, as soon as you enter your email, we have a modal screen which offers you to do a hands-on onboarding and offering you some calendar times. Just to give you an idea, about 30% of the people select want help, and the conversion rate once they select is about 70%. What's really important here is most of the emails that you do for your high-value customers as a marketer, if you're a marketer, your goal is to get engagement, is to get people to respond saying, oh yes, I want to talk, right? And you're going to do version after version to get there. And the problem is that you're asking for something for the customer. Here I'm reversing who's asking for what. The customer is asking for some of our time, and we're branding our time as being valuable, right? I'm selling something. I'm selling a valuable onboarding. And of course, that's why the conversion is much higher on the booking rate. And the good thing is that most sales reps don't need to do anything. They just pick up the phone. So that was using email as a key. It's easy, I'd say actually easy-ish. There's a lot of data providers. It works well. It's not super time sensitive. You have it unless you want to do it in the web page. The email can wait minutes, right? So that's fine. And there's a huge problem, however. The problem is it's limited to post-engagement stages, right? We're still only improving that 1 on 20 people, right? That 5%. And sure, we did plus 30% on the sign-up rate, and sure, the boss is happy. But I'm still looking at 19 people who just left the door without saying hello. And that pains me very much every day. And so when I think about that, I think, well, what can I do to solve that problem? And it's not by improving the match rate. It's not by finding a better average. It's by finding a similar process that enables me to find another key to the user data. And in our case, because we do B2B, we found that the IP address is a very, very good key for that. So you probably heard about IP to domain enrichment. I think I started hearing about that in 2010, about 7 years ago now. Time flies. And it was horrible. Really, really bad match rates and really, really bad data. It has improved significantly over time, and I'm going to cover that. But basically, the way it works is we send an IP address to Clearbit, and they return a domain. Here's an example for Salesforce. We get some of that data. We also get the whole 120 different attributes, which means not just the domain, but the whole company object. Let's talk just 1 second about match rate. I said the match rate is 27% on average. I hate averages. They don't mean anything. Actually, 26%. And if you look at the distribution of match rates, it's actually highly dependent on company size. which makes sense. The more people there are in a company, the more confidence they have on the fact that that IP belongs to that company, right? That's how they measure the signal. And it starts at like 10% or less in like small companies. The average for us is 26%. And it's actually 50% for the people who sign up to Segment, right? And that's very interesting because, well, those are the people we want, the people who have intent. So our match rate, or the match rate on the people we want is actually higher than 26%, even though the match rate for website traffic is 26, right? So now that we have the data, right, we have collected the data on our traffic, let's see how we can use it. And the first thing that we did is actually doing cold email. Excuse me. So there's a reason why we did that. It was a new process for us at the time, collecting all of that data, and we wanted to see, well, does it work? And we had a pipeline which was not great through Zapier, Airtable, and like a lot of other things. And so we just like tested a few campaigns and said, the core principle, if you want to think about it, is this. You get IP addresses, then you get companies. And because you have the same company object as what we had for signup, we can use the same machine learning model. And so we can score anonymous visitors. Now we start knowing, well, all of those people who leave, those 19 people, are they valuable? Or actually, who is valuable within those 19 people? Is there anyone who's valuable, right? And the answer is yes. And the answer is there's a lot of valuable visitors who are just like leaving without doing anything. And now we can know how much money we're leaving on the table. They're not just tourists. They are people who are like come from valuable company. We know they are in our top score. We know they came for a reason and they're leaving, right? And if you present that to the board and you say you're doing nothing, I hope you're fired. And the good news is I was not fired yet. And so the thing we did is that we said, well, who should we talk to at those companies, right? And the way to do that is we go back to another API and we ask for specific profiles, specific roles. And in our case, we know at Segment, we like talking to VP of Engineering, VP of Analytics, analysts, data engineers, and whatnot. So for each company that we find, we said, well, let's get 3, 4, 5 of those top roles, right? 4 people here. And let's send them emails. And let's look at the data. It's pretty interesting here. You can see that we have the anonymous ID, the page they visited, the company name, the lead scoring model. You can see the good, very good, the domain of the company, and the count, which is how many people came from the same company. Because those are anonymous visitors. They're unique visitors, right? Cookie IDs. In this case here, the case of the company simple.com, which has a good fit, there's 13 people, right, that came from a company that is not a customer. What does that say about intent? For sure it says something, right? It says that we're missing completely, and that we need to do something. Just to give you an idea of scale, we found at the time when we launched that 1,500 new companies per week, of which 300 matched our top score per week, right? So there's no way our sales team could do anything about that. It's way too big. And that resulted in 5,000 new contacts per week, right? So I can't just drop that on like my 10% sales team, just say, hey, go ahead and contact them. It's not going to work, right? And it's also because they did not express any intent, right? So we can't just expect the sales reps to handle them at the same conversion rate. So we need to automate that. When we go back to the API and we pull specific roles, you can see the roles here from the same companies. You can see we're pulling the name, the title, the role, and all of the rest. You can see we're pulling product people, engineering people, senior director of business, director of product. Perfect people. So we did emails. This is an example of the emails that we sent. There you go. So here, the email for those in you who are back there, the email says, I was researching Motive Interactive's website and saw that you're using Google Analytics and New Relic. And my company has seen a ton of success helping teams at companies similar to Motive Interactive, such as DraftKings, VSCO, Product Hunt, in these 2 areas. You might not see this is kind of grayed out. So that's an extract from one day. the open rate on that email is 65%. Right? We're talking of open rate on cold email, right? Which it speaks to two things. One, the copy is relevant because we extract data on which scripts that are running on the website. We match that on those we support as a platform. We inject it in the email. We use the industry then to look at which customers do we have in that industry, and we name the customers in the email, just like what we did on the sign-up form, right? So the copy is good, but of course, it just speaks to the intent and the quality of the data. Those companies have intent, thus they're opening our emails. It happens that we're emailing them at the right time. Surprise, right? And you say, well, okay, you got a good open rate, G, but like, does it work, right? Do you generate business? So here's an answer that we got from, that's just one example. In this case here, see how we emailed a person named Henry. And Henry is the director of product management. And Henry forwarded the email to Joey. And Joey forwarded the email to Anju. And Anju said, hey, we got to talk, right? And so we were able to penetrate through 3 different profiles at the same time with one email, right? Which speaks towards the intent and the power of the email, which is amazing, right? Yeah. So that's good, but there is a problem. There's a huge friction. We're creating a huge friction comparing to engaging them directly on the website, right? We are forcing them to come to us, to leave, to wait for an email, hope we email the right people, and then to answer to us. I mean, sure, it works, and it's much better than most systems, but like, the content on the website still didn't answer the problem, right? We still offer them a very poor experience on the website, so we can't really settle it there. So the next thing, obviously, is to have a pipeline which moves a bit faster and start doing that on live chat. There are some technical challenges that we needed to face. Mostly, well, we need to detect the company, we need to score the company, and we need to trigger the live chat in a matter of seconds. Because if the pipeline takes like 5 minutes, well, your visitor is no longer there, right? And when I look at the distribution of time spent on site for the people who don't convert, right? Most of the people are below 15 seconds, right? So like if you're at 30 seconds, well, you lost more than half, right? So, so time is the essence here. And so we did pretty much the same pipeline. We get the IP address, we get the domain, we score the company, and then we fire live chat if the score is high enough, right? So the question is, why am I scoring here? Why am I not showing the chat to everyone? Because I could, right? And there's a reason for that. And the reason is I've tried live chat for 5 consecutive years in my past jobs, and I failed for 4 consecutive years, which is a long time to fail. Luckily, I was in different jobs, so like the boss didn't know I failed in past jobs when I offered the same idea again and again. So if this is gonna work, so I trust you, G, and like I failed again, and like. But the question is like, why did I fail? I failed because salespeople are expensive, and asking them to handle low-value chats is not worth it, right? They were just saying like, gee, it's like you're funny with your stuff, but I can't just spend all of my day answering to random people on the homepage, right? And as much as I want them to do that, that's not happening. So the point is we created a test pipeline, and to be honest, that's what it looked like at the beginning. We did that through Zapier. And we said, well, what if we could power the live chat just for those valuable people when we know they're valuable, right? What would it do on the conversion? What would it do for a sales rep? The interesting story is we lost almost no lead, right? Because the other people that were low score, eventually they would not convert. And the salespeople started giving me like wine bottles, saying like, this is fantastic, I'm getting money, I'm not doing anything. So that's how I measure success. And there's one thing also that's important is this was not possible when we wanted to create that at the time. And we worked with Elias, Drift's CTO, to find a workaround, basically because for those of you who are technical, we had a race condition because the segment JS is actually loaded on the page load, right? As is the Drift widget. And so the time that we do this enrichment, well, the widget has already executed, and it has queried the Drift database, and there's nothing to do, right? It says, well, nothing, right? And so we have a race condition. And what we need to do is, and what Elias did for us, is find a way to force the widget to display once we have the data, which takes 3, 4, 5 seconds, right? And that's what they did. And now it's actually, you can do all of that without any of that stuff here, right? It's completely embedded in the product. But let's look at how it looked like. This is a GIF I did at the time, probably like 9 months ago. So this is an incognito window, and is this working? Yes. Yeah, OK, perfect. And you can see here I'm loading the segment website. Behind, I have the Drift campaign. You can see we inject the company name in the chat, and I'm loading Zapier to show you the pipeline of data. And the pipeline actually, it takes the data from Segment. It sends the IP address to Clearbit. There you go. The IP address is sent to Clearbit, Clearbit reveal. We get the company name, and then you wait an awfully long time, and then you say we have advice for Segment. In this case, I was doing it from my own IP, so it injected the company name. So that's that, right? And as you can see, we actually inject the company name in the message. Now that's interesting, and begs the question of like, why are we doing that? We're doing that because for very much the same reason that putting the first name or the company name in the email subject works better. It actually worked way better a long time ago, right? Almost no one is doing that because it's pretty hard to do, which means I have an unfair advantage versus all the other people who are doing live chat. I am surprising my customers with relevance. We have advice for your company name. It's not only that, right? Just like for the email, we actually inject stuff like the tools that they are using in their company, which we know. I inject stuff like the relevant customers, right? Or sometimes we're just honest. We say we use a machine learning algorithm to determine whether you're a good fit, and you are, right? And you might be asking, well, is this working? Well, let's look at the answers. And the people are saying, my email is, I would like to have a call. Awesome. Just so that you know how to reach you, is there an email address I can reach you at? Hi there, just curious. How do you know I am from RoboRace? And stuff like that. And it's on and on and on. I'm surprising people. And you could think, is it a bit creepy? I'm doing B2B, and I'm not pushing personal data. I'm pushing that company data, right? And we have almost no one who complained about us pushing that data. It can be more or less powerful, but in our case, we actually increase the click-through rate by 5x between injecting the company name and not injecting the company name. Actually, relevant data from the IP address, right? Which is like crazy. So that's great. It's still only a fraction of all visitors, to be honest, right? And it's good, but the question is, how does it interact with the rest of the funnel? And that's a problem that we've been facing more and more. As we power live chat to more and more of our traffic, the question is, well, live chat does not sit alone. Live chat is in the middle of the funnel, right? People come to the website, they see the chat, but then chat is not the end. Then they sign up, and then they use the product. And the problem is that my sign up, my email, does not have the context, right? If you think about a possible customer journey, well, this is a possible customer journey. The people visit the website, they are scored, we decide to display the live chat, they have a conversation. They go on with their life, they spend 2 days, they do something else, they forget about us, and then they remember. And they come back and they say, I want to sign up. And they sign up. And what do we do in that case? Well, if you look on the left here, I have a conversation which says, this is a chat, how can I help you use segments? And the customer here, Rennie, tells us, I'm trying to find documentation on how to join AdWords data with my pages data. Fine, the customer has intent and is giving us relevant information. They go on with their life, they sign up, and they get an email from someone else, right, which is not Mark, which in this case is Elias, says, just so I can help you, what challenges are you trying to face, right? I have no other words to say that this sucks as an experience. This sucks really bad because it's a personal email, comes from someone else, and this is a highly qualified visitor, and so we completely failed at creating a great experience here. And we failed because live chat is not connected into the rest of our tools. So because we cannot accept that, we actually changed the way we think about it, and we are now sending the live chat data back to Segment, back into our email tool, and we have a specific path for the people who have a live chat and then sign up, and the email that they get is now, so glad you signed up after our live chat conversation yesterday. Should we hop on a call to continue a conversation? And it comes from the same person that they had the chat with that past day, right? And it's a text-based email. And now the customer, there's two things. Either they believe it's a personal-based email, which they could very well believe, because now it's a text-based email coming from the same person they had the chat with. And at that time, it was a human, right? Or they don't, but it's still super relevant, right? I'm offering better value. So that's going pretty far. And the question is like, where's the limit? And when I'm thinking about it, there's no limit, to be honest, right? Imagine I want to surprise my most valuable leads, right? Those like 16%. Those are worth tens of thousands of dollars for me, right? So I'm happy to spend a bit of money if I can increase my conversion rate, right? So what if I could send them a small gift? But what if I can send them a small gift not 2 weeks afterwards they pay, not 2 weeks after they sign up, but while they're having the live chat conversation, right? Live. And so this is what I'm working on. Unfortunately, it's not, I can't press on it right now, but the idea is that they visit the website, we display the live chat, and instead of telling them, do you want to talk with us? I'm asking them, how do you like your coffee, right? And the person says, oh, so I ask tea or coffee, and they say tea, right? And say, awesome, tea is great. What do you want in there? Sugar, milk? And the visitor says, no sugar, but a cloud of milk. And we say, just to confirm, is this the right address? Because we have the address of their headquarters from the enrichment, right? And this is using Drift's latest release of LeadBots, which handles multiple questions and has buttons to capture structured data, right? What happens afterwards is we ping Sendozo, which is a procurement platform. They have access to Postmates, and I can fire Postmates webhook to buy a coffee for that customer, right? It's going to take 15 minutes, which is slightly longer than what we'd wish, but it surprises the customer. That's the whole point as a marketer. I'm here to surprise my customer with something that's delightful, which is funny. And like someone was telling me like at a previous conference, oh, Guillaume, all of what you do is great, but like it's still some spam. And now I can say, well, at least you can drink it, right? It's like you haven't lost everything. And there's actually a study on hard drinks that you might want to look up that prove that drinking, having a hard drink makes you believe that the person offering you the hard drink is agreeable, is a nice person, is trying to help you, right? So there's a psychology effect. It's just fun. It's nice, and it's $5 out of like tens of thousands. Like I don't care. So to calm things a little or not, and to close this, a few closing thoughts. You got to accept the fact that you don't know your customer. Don't tell me, oh, I know my customer. No, unless you have one customer, you don't know your customer, right? I don't know all the details of all the people in my family. So like if you know like your customers and you have a few hundred, then there's something weird, right? But I think it's okay. I think it's okay because I think the AI and enrichment will take it from here, right? And the other thing I want you to think about is what's going to happen? How will you feel when you no longer can tell if a message is expertly crafted by a human or if it's done by an AI, right? How will you feel about that? Will you give a face value that's higher for the message that's done by a human, even if it has an interesting content, right? Because someone spent some sweat on it. And if you think that that is a fiction, I'd like to remind you that we already experience a world of predictive analytics. And in that world, we have the GPS, right? The GPS takes data on your location and takes data that it has stored, which is the maps, and tells you, hey, gee, you should take right at the next intersection. It's the best thing for you, right? And the next step for GPS, of course, is the autonomous driving car, which we know exists. And it's saying, well, I'm going to make the call for you, gee. I'm going to turn right now, right? Well, why can that not exist for marketing? Why instead of me having to choose the best message for the best audience, and sifting through all of those possibilities. I cannot have an AI that does it for me, right? And if you think that's hard, I want you to think about what's harder, like saving my life at 60 miles an hour on the highway, or like doing a blurb of text, right? I like to think that saving my life is harder. So that's about it, and I can open it for questions.